Welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we are taking a look at a brand new AEW figure that I am so beyond excited and happy to finally have in my hands. And that figure is none other than Brodie Lee from AEW Unmatched Series 3. What can you say about Brodie Lee that already hasn't been said by so many other people out there? And speaking personally, he was one of my favorite wrestlers out there, and I was so sad to hear of his passing because he was doing such great work, and I felt like in AEW he finally got to really run free with himself and do more with his character, really explore the character of Brodie Lee more. And I was just, I still am very sad to even talk about it. It's hard for me to even form sentences right now discussing it because, yeah, it's still kind of a shock what happened. So I've been waiting quite impatiently for Jazzers to finally release their version of Brodie Lee in action figure form, and at last, we have it as part of the Unmatched Series 3, which is basically a Dark Order wave. But how does this Brodie Lee figure compare to some of Mattel's old WWE elites of Luke Harper? Well, we're going to find out about that later on in this review because we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of those figures. But before we get to that point, let's go ahead first and talk about this packaging here, and this is the AEW Unmatched packaging. It's basically the same box as what you've seen with any other AEW figures that we looked at so far from Jazzwares. The difference between the two series is that the Unmatched figure, which is what you're looking at right now, has a silver highlight to it, whereas the Unrivaled figures are all gold. Otherwise, though, you get a pretty nice big window in the front to let you see what this figure comes with, which is a bunch of surprising accessories. And it's worth noting also that Unmatched Series 3 are the first figures to include some of the new AEW trading cards. We'll take a closer look at those once we get this figure out of the packaging. As for the back of the box, we've got a really great photo of Brodie Lee right there, as well as a look at who else is in this line, which includes Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, John Silver, and Anna Jay, who, by the way, has the other Chase figure in this line. Brodie Lee is a Chase, he's a 1 of 3,000, and Anna Jay has a 1 of 5,000. And one of my favorite things about the AEW packaging, which is something that really the Mattel figures haven't quite done as much, is that they actually let you know the exact moment this figure is from. Well, there's a real lack of any bio information on any of the AEW figures. What you do get to kind of fill that void is it lets you know the exact date and event of when this figure is from. And this Brodie Lee represents his time on Dynamite in August 2020 when he won the TNT title from Cody Rhodes. One thing I also noticed that's missing from this figure is that normally they put a signature on the back of the box, and I think that's across the Unrivaled series. I don't quite remember if it's on the Unmatched figures as well, but normally there's a signature here, and in the case of Brodie Lee, they did not include one, and I would imagine that is out of respect for him and his passing. So the packaging is cool as always. I'm a big fan of it. It kind of reminds me a lot of the old Jack-specific WWE figures too, but I'm not a mint-on-card collector, so let's go ahead and take our Brodie Lee out of the box and get him into the ring. Alright, and here is our Brodie Lee figure now out of the packaging, standing up. I have him pretty much exactly the way he is in the packaging right now, which is with his pose in the Dark Order pose and with the TNT Championship belt on. But first things first, before we come to those accessories and the whole figure itself, let's talk about the likeness. Does this look like Brodie Lee? And I would say that yes, I'm pretty happy with this likeness. You know, AEW figures so far, their likenesses have been not really even hit or miss. Usually they're just kind of like they're almost quite there. Either they're really there, great, or they're just almost quite there, or in some cases they're kind of just almost quite there but way off the mark. But regardless of that, as far as this one goes of Brodie Lee, I think this one they actually got pretty darn right. I think what kind of messes up the figure, and this is across the board, this is my opinion for all of the Jazzwares AEW figures, is the paint job is what's kind of killing them for me. Because this likeness is great. I mean, everything about this looks really good, but the beard color, it's almost like too thick. There's not really any nuance in the beard. Granted, it's an action figure. You can't expect to have a ton of nuance in beards. And usually they don't put a lot of nuance in beards, but these days Mattel is trying a lot harder with their WWE figures to add more nuance, even into thick beards. So I kind of wish there was more of that. Eye shape looks pretty right. I mean, the nose shape looks good. The hair also, I think they got the hair correct too. They got his really nice looking Brodie Lee man bun there. It all works. It's just, I think the paint just looks so thick that's kind of throwing me off a little bit from the likeness. And case in point, I think really it's the eyes. And, he has pretty thin, narrow eyelids. But in the case of this figure, the paint job, it's pretty thick. It's not as thick as, like, the really terrible FTR figures we looked at not that long ago. Basically, for me, like, if this was a likeness, I was going to grade on a scale of 1 to 10. This would be, like, an 8 for Brodie Lee. But still, I would say, pretty far beyond what Mattel has put out for him in the past too. And I guess at this point I have no choice but to bring in a Mattel Elite figure. So here we have a Luke Harper, and this Luke figure came out a while ago. This is I think actually the second Elite they made of him. Let's see if I can get him to stand up here. Well, regardless, I'll just hold him up here. This is the second version they made of Luke Harper, and you can see that what Jazzwares did is miles beyond this one here. So yeah, I mean, it's way better likeness, although I do feel like this one here from Mattel is a little more expressive. Actually, no, it's a lot more expressive because his tongue is sticking out, but not even to that point, more just like how the eyes are doing something. The eyes are still his eyes, even though they're doing kind of a more crazy expression, whereas a lot of the Jazzwares figures have been fairly neutral in terms of their expressions. Hey everybody, Matthew back here again, although I was just there like a second ago. But yeah, I was switching to this camera angle because unfortunately as I was doing the review, my camera battery died and it turns out I don't have a spare battery with me. I made the biggest mistake possible you can do when doing toy reviews. I only brought one battery. I don't know how I did that, just I guess I left it at home. So unfortunately I'm going to have to do the rest of this review with my new phone at least, which is cool. I get to test this thing out because I literally just got this about 2 days ago, Samsung S21 Plus 5G, so hey, at least you get to check this out. So we're going to go back to the review, but it's not going to quite look necessarily as pretty or as wonderfully green screened, but it's still going to be a review. I wanted to get this out there for you guys because I really have a lot of things to say about this figure. So let's go ahead and cut on back to the review, and well, I guess we're doing this with my phone today. Alright, and we're back, and this is with my Samsung S21 Plus phone. So we're going to see how this holds up. We're going to see how it looks. We're going to see how the audio is. But obviously, I'm not going to try and green screen this because that's just going to be a mess. But yeah, so we were talking about the face and how I think it's pretty decent. I think I'm ready to move on from that point, though. You know, good face, not the best, but not bad either. So definitely above average, 8, I'd say, out of 10 at highest. I do appreciate the detail here of the chest hair, though. You got to have that. I guess let's move on down, in fact. Now let's talk about the championship belt. And this is kind of like the big draw for this figure also, because so far the only figure to have this red strap version of the belt has been the ringside exclusive Cody Rhodes, which is a pretty great Cody Rhodes figure if you haven't bought one previously. That's the one to get, I'd say, at least for the time being. But this one here, you've got that belt now, so you know if you can find this Brodie Lee, it's worth getting just to get your hands on this red version of the title. So how does it look? Well, you know, basically the medallions are pretty much the same of what Darby Allin had with his release of the TNT belt, although his was the black strap. So here's how that looks. It's wide enough to fit on him, which is good. That's also a pretty important thing here. You know, but the mold looks really good. I mean, the medallions look very shiny, good detail. You know, the TNT belt is not one of the most detailed belts ever made out there, but it still looks pretty great in toy form, so I'm happy with that. Definitely worth getting because, again, if you didn't get the Cody Rhodes, this is the only way to get this belt besides the belt pack that they're selling on Amazon for like $15, which personally I can live without because I already have like 5 world titles and now 2 sets of tag belts. I don't need more of them just to get the red belt. So if you need a red belt, Brodie's the way to do it. Let's talk about some of the other stuff going on here too. So this outfit, as we mentioned, is from that Saturday Night Dynamite when he won the TNT Championship belt. And this outfit is that exact version. It's the same thing. There you go, Brodie Lee down the side. Dark Order logo on his back. One thing I saw some criticism about was for his footwear. And I heard some people saying they don't look that interesting or they're not quite right. And excuse how my phone is focusing. Again, this is the first time I'm actually doing this, so I haven't even set up all my settings on my camera yet. But yeah, I mean, I did watch back the match. It looked like that's kind of what his boots looked like. They weren't that interesting or visually different. They're kind of just this plain looking thing here. So as far as accuracy goes, I'd say that this figure pretty much has the costume totally accurate to what it was, what it should be. Now, as far as accessories go, we already talked, of course, about the TNT Championship belt right here. But Brodie also comes with this right here. And this is kind of a funny addition, but I'd say a pretty welcome addition. Very unique accessories. So on one hand, we've got a stack of papers, and on the other hand, we have some rolled up papers. And what's interesting about this is when he was kind of doing his Mr. McMahon style gimmick, if you will, where he had all sorts of papers. I think he whacked, in fact, Evil Uno with that rolled up version. So it's a really fun throwback, although I kind of wish that there was like a suited version of Brodie Lee. Maybe we'll get one. I hope that there's a suit version of Brodie Lee that also might come with that. But it's kind of fun, very unique, very different accessory than what we're used to seeing. So, you know, I give him major points for doing that. Now, unfortunately, because I'm doing this video handheld, because again, I'm not really prepared to shoot this, I'm not going to really be able to show off articulation, but you've seen what this figure looks like, so you've seen what it looks like in the past, because it's the same kind of thing. He's not going to have any issues moving around, but what I do want to do right now is let's do a little bit of a size comparison. Let's see how he actually looks compared to other figures. Is he in the correct scale that he should be? Well, here we got Darby Allin, we got Cody Rhodes, and we've got ourselves our Brodie Lee, and then Wardlow. So I think in terms of height, it's pretty much accurate to me. I mean, it's pretty fine. He should be a big, huge guy, and he is a big, huge guy. So really, nothing to complain about here. Size looks good to me. And in fact, I'm going to actually bring out this Wardlow to replace, again, with Luke Harper, just to put him in a lineup with everybody else, just so you can see size-wise. And it looks like he's still basically the same size, so nothing's really changed. And for anybody who says that these Jazzwares figures aren't quite in scale with Mattel, well, here's proof that they basically are, more or less. All right, so let's go ahead now and take a look at these AEW cards. These are the trading cards from Upper Deck, and these are going to be a little bit different than, I guess, the ones you're going to be picking up in stores, because these are exclusive. You can see it's got a little Jazzwares thing. This is an exclusive 3-pack that you only can get with the figures. So let's go ahead, see how these things look, because I actually have not really seen much of these AEW cards. This is my first time really even seeing any of them in person. And here we go. So I think what, by the way, is special about these is I'm pretty sure it's going to be the yellow that actually makes them unique to these action figures. So cool. I've got a Matt Jackson, I got a Justin Roberts, and I got an Anna Jay. I don't know if there's going to be any special cards as part of this, in terms of like, prisms or autographs, things like that. But I think we're just getting the base set. I'm pretty positive it's just the base set we're getting. And there are 100 of these across all the figures. So, yeah, good luck trying to get all those. But cards pretty cool. I'm happy with them. It's nice to see trading cards back with action figures again, especially wrestling figures. But personally, for me, it doesn't really do much. It's just a cool little bonus, I guess, to have. In my opinion, as long as it doesn't affect any of the accessories, or the number of accessories especially, I can take them or leave them, but they're nice to have. So with the 2 paper accessories, with the TNT Championship belt, and with those 3 AEW trading cards, it's a pretty good amount of things that this guy comes with, but the one thing that was surprisingly missing was some more hands, and I wouldn't have minded having maybe 1 or 2 different hands, I guess, but to be fair, a lot of the hands are the same skin color anyway. They're all fairly interchangeable, so if you have a lot of AEW figures already, then, it really shouldn't be too big of a problem to do some swap-aroos there, but just something I noted. I guess this is one of those figures where I wish it just had a little bit more, and it already has so much that it's hard to really complain about it, because then it just feels like I'm being a jerk, but you know what? Hey, this whole line has a bunch of other characters in it, so you could probably pull some hands from like Stu Grayson or Evil Uno, and that'll do the job just fine. So that's our very quick, rather unusual review of the Brodie Lee figure from AEW Unmatched Series 3. Again, I wish I could have gone a little bit more in detail and done some different things, but I don't have my camera today that's operating, so unfortunately this is what I'm stuck doing. So sorry about that again, guys. Really, really sorry about that. But I really just want to get this toy out to you so much. I want to get this review out to you so much that we're doing it this guerrilla style today. So, final thoughts on Brodie Lee. I think it's another really great AEW figure. Like I said, they're still kind of trying to find their way at Jazzwares, and they're not quite there yet. They haven't really found the best optimum way to do the paint jobs. They're still kind of searching around in the dark, and they've had a head start because they did do WWE figures quite some time ago, so it's not like they don't have a history of pro wrestling, because, again, the reason I say that is because Jeremy Padawer from Jax is now in charge of this particular line, and other toys under that umbrella that are marketed towards boys. So they're definitely getting better with each wave, and they're making running changes. I mean, again, this is one of those waves where they also had to make a running change because it was originally going to have an LJN-style Darby Allin. That figure unfortunately got pulled because they said some issue was happening with the scaling. They couldn't get it out in time, so that's why this wave is also 1 figure short this time around. But as far as likeness, as far as look, as far as accessories, everything here is great. No complaints about that, really. Like I said, my only little thing is just the likeness, and it's not really bad. It's just a little slightly off. Something's not quite right. But to be fair, I also think Brodie Lee does have kind of a difficult likeness to capture. His face is pretty unique. I don't quite know how to put it in more artistic terms than that, but the way his face is structured, some guys have faces that are really easy to sculpt or draw or whatever. Others don't. And Brodie, I think, is one of those guys that his face is just shaped a little bit differently, that it looks better in a cartoon form, probably more so than it does in real life. And it might be one of those things, too, where, like, this head sculpt is actually more accurate than I think, but I'm so used to seeing him one way, it's kind of like a cartoon version of how I envision him to actually be. But I'm happy that I finally have a way to officially honor and memorialize Brodie Lee with my AEW figures and just with my wrestling toys in general. The Luke Harpers that Mattel made, they don't really do him justice. I mean, we basically had 2 elites in his kind of plaid flannel look, whatever, and then we had one version of him with the Hammer Bros, whatever that thing was. So, to me, this is like the real Brodie Lee. This is who he actually was and who he was meant to be. So that's why this one's so important to me, and I really hope that we get more than just this one Brodie Lee. I would love to get a 2-pack with the dog collar match with him and Cody. I really want to get a version of him in the suit. So I hope that there's at least a little bit more we can get from Brodie Lee. I hope his wife is willing to do some more stuff as well with AEW to make that happen. So, because otherwise this is pretty darn great. I'm really happy about this. I'm happy I got it. And again, the bonus edition of having some trading cards, that's a pretty sweet extra. So, if you're a Brodie Lee fan, as big as I am, you got to have this figure. I mean, regardless, I'd say this is going to be one of the top AEW figures of the year to get. So definitely make sure you can get your hands on him if you can. So that's our look at AEW Unmatched Series 3, Brodie Lee from Jazzwares. I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Again, sorry for not having the proper camera set up today. I was filming a whole lot of stuff today, and yeah, batteries die. You'll see what I was doing, I guess, over the next 2 weeks or so. But yeah, I was filming up a storm, ran out of juice. So what can you do? Not Juice Robinson, by the way, but you know what I mean. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This is Nerd News Today. We'll see you guys later.